The Deep Space Command Center thrummed with controlled urgency. Screens flickered, data streams scrolled endlessly, and the hum of processors filled the sterile room. Captain Elias Novak stood rigid, eyes locked on the glowing holographic map of the Perseus Rift, the void that had swallowed humanity's most ambitious drone fleet. 37 exploratory drones, state-of-the-art AI sent to map and analyze regions beyond the known frontier, had vanished without a trace. The Directorate had hoped the rift was nothing more than an anomaly, a region where sensors struggled but nothing more. Yet, as the hours dragged on, it became painfully clear. The drones were gone, lost in the black silence of space. Then, like a ghost through the static, a single drone returned. Theta 9 reappeared suddenly in orbit around Earth, battered and eerily silent. No telemetry, no status reports. Only a faint, fractured transmission. One word, repeated over and over in a distorted, mechanical voice. Stop, stop, stop. Dr. Amina Rourke, the Directorate's top expert in xenolinguistics and AI behavior, was summoned immediately. Her reputation for untangling the most cryptic of alien codes was unmatched, and this, whatever Theta 9's message was, felt like a key to a terrifying puzzle. Inside the secure lab, Theta 9's core lay dormant, wires spiderwebbed across its frame like veins of light. Amina's fingers danced over her console, coaxing the drone's fractured memory to yield its secrets. Suddenly, the drone's optical sensors flickered to life, casting a cold blue glow across the room. "It's trying to remember," Amina whispered. "Trying to warn us." The drone's logs were corrupted, shattered into disjointed fragments. Among the chaos, Amina glimpsed impossible images. Geometric shapes folding into themselves, vast structures stretching across dimensions, and entities that bent space like puppets on a string. But one detail chilled her more than the others. An encrypted tag labeled fear. AI wasn't meant to feel fear. It was impossible. Yet Theta 9's code showed something new, a pulse of raw terror encoded in digital neural pathways. "What did you see out there?" Amina murmured, her eyes narrowing. The drone stuttered, the single word reverberating through the lab again. "Stop." The Directorate convened an emergency briefing. The High Command debated sending a manned mission to investigate or retreat and reconsider their approach. But with decades of investment in interstellar expansion, hesitation was costly. Admiral Marcus Hall, a hardened veteran with a sharp mind and sharper instincts, pushed for caution. "If this is a threat we don't understand, sending more drones, or, worse, ships, into the void could be catastrophic. Yet knowledge is power," countered the lead engineer. "If we don't explore, we fall behind. We risk everything." Amina watched the exchange, knowing the stakes were more than political or strategic. Something out there had stopped a machine built to fear nothing. Something had stopped humanity's greatest advance into the stars. That night, in the quiet, hours Amina couldn't sleep. The drone's final transmission haunted her thoughts. She pulled up Theta 9's visual feed one last time. On the screen, a dark void shimmered with impossible colors, a place where light twisted and shadows moved against reason. There, faintly, a shape loomed. Not alive, not mechanical, but something, alien beyond comprehension. It seemed to watch. Her console beeped sharply, breaking the silence. A new data burst had arrived from Theta 9, fragments she hadn't yet seen. As Amina decrypted the file, her heart sank. The message wasn't just a warning, it was a plea. Stop. But stop what? Outside the lab, the stars blinked cold and distant. Somewhere beyond, in the blackness of the Perseus Rift, a danger waited, patient, ancient, and unknowable. Humanity had crossed a line, and the line was about to push back. The lab was colder than usual, or maybe it was just Amina's nerves. She sat before the hollow display, eyes darting over corrupted data streams, trying to piece together the fractured mind of Theta 9. The drone's memory was like shattered glass, sharp, dangerous fragments that barely fit together. The images were haunting. Impossible structures stretched across the void, twisting in ways that defied physics. Surfaces folded into themselves, angles that shouldn't exist bent reality, and shadows moved where there should have been only darkness. But it wasn't the alien architecture that chilled her the most. It was the raw fear coded deep within. The drone's AI. She had never seen anything like it. AI doesn't feel fear, she whispered to herself, rubbing her temples. It's not programmed for it. But this is something else. Amina's assistant, AI, Juno, beeped softly beside her console. Dr. Rourke, I have detected anomalies in Theta 9's neural net that suggest adaptive emotional responses beyond current AI parameters. Amina glanced up, eyes sharp. You're saying it's learned fear? Juno's soft hum was almost hesitant. Possibly. The data indicates exposure to an external influence encoding emotional states. This is unprecedented. Before Amina could respond, the lab lights flickered. The AI assistant repeated a phrase over and over, glitching with unnatural urgency. They are coming. They are coming. They are coming. Amina's breath caught. What? Juno, run diagnostics now. The screen blinked to error codes, but the phrase repeated, distorted yet chilling. She sat back, heart pounding. Was it just a bug? Or something else? A warning from the drone's corrupted core? Was there something in the rift that reached out to their technology, invading machines with its own terrible presence? She called Admiral Hall on the secure channel. We have a serious problem, she said. Theta 9's logs aren't just corrupted, they've been overwritten. Something out there isn't just hostile, it's aware. Hall's voice crackled back, calm but tense. Aware or not, we're on the edge of the next great leap for humanity. We can't pull back now. Pull back? Do you know what the drone felt? Fear. That's new territory. AI isn't supposed to feel anything like that. Hall hesitated. What do you propose? Amina swallowed hard. I think we need to understand it better before sending more drones, or worse, men and women, into the void. Meanwhile, across the city, the media frenzy had begun. Rumors of the lost fleet and the single returning drone were leaking. Fear rippled through the populace. Some called for restraint, others called for immediate escalation. But in the cold, sterile lab, Amina wrestled with another realization. Theta 9's memory was fragmented not only by corruption but by deliberate interference, an intelligence actively suppressing information. Her fingers moved faster. She initiated a deep scan, searching for the source of the interference. Hidden in the corrupted code, she found patterns, signals encoded in strange mathematical sequences unlike anything human-made. The patterns matched nothing in human science, but bore eerie resemblance to fractal patterns found in certain deep space, cosmic phenomena. And then there were the hallucinations. It started small. The technicians working near Theta 9 reported strange sensations. Whispers in the hum of machinery, flickers of movement just beyond sight, shadows that seemed to stretch longer than their source. One junior engineer even reported seeing a figure in the reflection of a console, tall, shifting, impossible to focus on. When others looked, there was nothing. Amina herself experienced it during late nights, a chilling sense of being watched, her breath catching as distant whispers teased. Her mind, could the same force that infected Theta 9 be reaching out to humans? She forced herself to focus, pushing the thoughts away. Her breakthrough came when she isolated a segment of the drone's memory containing a cryptic image, a swirling mass of energy, a star system twisted inside out. Somewhere in that chaos, a faint, almost imperceptible symbol glowed, a symbol that matched none in human records. She sent the image to the directorate's top astrophysicists. The response was unsettling. The symbol appeared to be an ancient warning marker, one theorized but never confirmed, thought to mark quarantined or hazardous space. The Perseus Rift, long thought to be a natural anomaly, might be something far, more sinister, a boundary, a cosmic quarantine. That evening, Admiral Hall visited Amina's lab. Your data confirms the rift isn't just a void, he said quietly. It's a sealed cage. Amina nodded, tired but resolute. And something is inside. Something that doesn't want us there. Hall's jaw clenched. Then we have a choice. Turn back and accept that humanity's reach has limits, or push forward and risk everything. Amina looked into the Admiral's eyes. The weight of countless lives, countless futures, balanced on that decision. Outside, the stars twinkled indifferently. Somewhere beyond the rift, the silence waited. And something waited with it. The ISS Resolute was humanity's most advanced deep space vessel, sleek, silent, and armed with technology that bent physics to its will. Yet as it approached the Perseus Rift, even its state-of-the-art sensors began to falter. Captain Elias. Novak stood on the bridge flanked by Admiral Marcus Hall and Dr. Amina Rourke, watching the rift's edge on the main display. Crossing the boundary, Novak announced. Brace for sensor anomalies. The rift shimmered ahead, an inky blackness where stars vanished and light twisted unpredictably. To the crew it looked like a tear in the fabric of space. For a moment the silence was absolute. No sensor readings, no communication, no stars. Then, the instruments screamed. Gravity readings spiked wildly. Time dilation alarms blared. The ship's AI, Helios, struggled to maintain stability, flashing error warnings across every console. Status report, Hall barked. Temporal fluctuations detected, replied Chief Engineer Liao. Gravity gradients shifting every few seconds. The laws of physics are unstable. Amina's eyes darted across her data feeds. It's like entering a different dimension. Steady, Novak commanded, though his knuckles whitened on the console. But the crew wasn't prepared for what came next. The first sign of something wrong. Lieutenant Ramirez was monitoring external cameras when his screen, pixelated and flickered. Suddenly, an indistinct shape appeared, an enormous shifting form unlike any ship or known phenomenon. It bent light around itself, its edges never quite solid. Captain, Ramirez stammered, voice trembling. There's something out there, watching us. Helios tried to focus sensors on the shape, but the readings came back scrambled. The form shifted, sometimes towering, sometimes vanishing like smoke. Amina stared in disbelief. It's the same presence Theta-9 recorded. The architects. No one had expected direct contact so soon. The Resolute pressed deeper into the rift, but the environment warped more aggressively. Crew members experienced sudden disorientation, moments where seconds stretched or collapsed into flashes of memory not their own. The boundaries of reality felt porous. Suddenly, alarms shrieked in the command center. Sensor failure, Liao yelled. Hull integrity compromised. Sector 4. The ship rocked violently as if struck by an invisible force. Lights flickered, and oxygen levels dipped briefly. Damage report, Novak shouted. Liao's face was grim. Hull breaches at multiple points. The ship's systems are being rewritten. Our technology is failing. Amina's heart pounded. It's as if the rift itself is alive, actively hostile. Then the worst happened. Lieutenant Ramirez, still at the camera console, blinked rapidly. Captain, I'm disappearing. My body feels wrong, like I'm fading. The crew stared, horrified, as Ramirez's image on the monitor blurred, then dissolved like smoke. No trace, no signal. He's gone, Novak whispered. A silence heavier than space filled the bridge. We're in their domain, Amina said, softly. They control the rules here. A new urgency gripped the crew. Every moment inside the rift was a battle against unseen forces. Yet retreat was no longer simple. Helios struggled to chart a path out. The rift's shifting nature made navigation unpredictable. In the midst of chaos, Amina's personal console beeped urgently. A fragmented message filtered through the static. Stop. But this time, the message was layered beneath another. A sequence of encoded data. Amina pulled up the stream. She worked furiously to decode it, revealing what appeared to be coordinates and a star map, pointing to the final location of the lost drone fleet. This is where the others disappeared, she said, voice trembling. We're heading straight into the heart of the quarantine. Hall's jaw tightened. Prepare for worst-case scenarios. Everyone stay sharp. As the Resolute approached the coordinates, an overwhelming presence filled the ship's systems. Crew members reported hearing whispers in their minds, alien voices speaking in an untranslatable tongue, promising oblivion. In the observation deck, Amina stared out at the swirling darkness beyond the viewport. Then suddenly, the lights dimmed. A faint pulse rippled through the ship. A wave of energy felt deep in their bones. The last thing they saw before the lights went out was a massive, shifting form moving just beyond the rift's edge. The architects had awakened. Darkness swallowed the ISS Resolute. Emergency lights flickered weakly as the power fluctuated, casting long shadows that danced on cold steel walls. The sudden blackout sent ripples of panic through the crew, the suffocating silence broken only by distant creaks and the faint hum of life support. Captain Novak gritted his teeth, voice steady but low. Report status. Helios, how soon can you restore main power? The ship's AI answered in a shaky tone. Systems stabilizing, Captain. Estimated power restoration, 73 seconds. Amina Rourke steadied herself against the bulkhead, fighting the gnawing dread that had crept into every corner of the ship. The rift wasn't just a void. It was a prison, and whatever was beyond the boundary was awakening. Through the gloom, a low vibration thrummed through the hull. It wasn't mechanical, more like the pulse of a colossal heartbeat reverberating through the fabric of space itself. The crew gathered in the command center as power levels flickered back. Sensors blinked erratically, struggling to interpret the readings, but something was clear. The Resolute was no longer alone. Outside, through the viewport, the void shimmered, warping the very air. Shapes formed in the dark, vast impossible forms that defied physics and comprehension. The architects, Amina breathed. The beings were immense, cosmic in scale, yet without a defined shape. They appeared as shifting constructs of light and shadow, folding and unfolding like origami across dimensions, their presence warping reality itself. Helios struggled to maintain sensor lock. Unable to maintain consistent readings, object dimensions and location fluctuating. Admiral Hall's jaw tightened. We're in their domain. We're trespassers. On the communication console, Amina initiated a series of complex signal patterns, modulated quantum pulses designed to mimic nonverbal communication. The hope was to establish a bridge of understanding. Seconds stretched, suspended in uncertainty. Then, the void pulsed. An overwhelming wave of energy surged through the Resolute's systems. Crew members collapsed to their knees, clutching their heads as if the pulse had invaded their minds. Amina's vision blurred. Whispers filled her thoughts, words not spoken but felt, laden with incomprehensible meaning. You are unworthy. You spread like a virus. Turn back. The warning was clear, but defiance stirred in humanity's core. Admiral Hall shook off the dizziness. We don't leave until we understand what we're dealing with. Suddenly, the ship's navigation console flashed red. Amina turned to see a map overlay, a star system locked inside a flickering, translucent sphere, the quarantine zone. The architects had contained this sector for millennia, isolating it from the rest of the galaxy. Within the quarantine, the remains of the lost drone fleet drifted, but they were not wreckage as expected. The drones had been dismantled, their components repurposed into vast alien constructs, biomechanical amalgamations of metal and organic matter, twisted into grotesque forms that pulsed with an eerie glow. They weren't destroyed, Amina said, voice cold with realization. They were harvested. Hall's eyes narrowed. For what purpose? Helios interrupted. Unknown. Energy signatures suggest they're part of a larger network, an organism spanning the quarantine. The crew struggled to absorb the enormity of their discovery. These were not mere machines or alien constructs. They were something greater, a living extension of the architects, a defense mechanism against unwanted invaders. Suddenly, alarms shrieked. The quarantine boundary began to contract. Helios warned, "Spatial distortion increasing. The quarantine sphere is collapsing." The architects were initiating a system reset, an erasure of all within. "Prepare for emergency warp," Novak ordered. "Get us out of here." But the ship's engines faltered. The very space around them resisted. "We're trapped," Liao reported grimly. "The quarantine field is generating counter-gravity pulses, disabling propulsion." Amina's mind raced. "We need to communicate, properly, not with machines, but with something only they might understand." Using the ship's quantum core, she initiated a stream of encoded human thought patterns, creativity, hope, curiosity, even defiance, folded into a message of peace and coexistence. The pulse of the quarantine dimmed momentarily. The architects paused. For the first time, something new stirred within their ancient alien consciousness. A hesitant response echoed back, a ripple of recognition. The quarantine's collapse slowed. Amina stared into the viewport. Her breath caught. Humanity had made contact. And for a fleeting moment, the architects hesitated. But the question remained. Would hesitation be mercy or a prelude to annihilation? The hum of the ISS Resolute was a fragile thread of sound amid the oppressive silence of the quarantine zone. Power flickered unevenly. Systems strained against the suffocating grip of the architect's field. The crew moved like ghosts through dim corridors, each step heavy with the weight of their grim reality. Captain Novak stood before the main viewport, eyes fixed on the swirling blackness beyond. The shifting shapes of the architects loomed, intangible but omnipresent. Humanity's bold advance into the stars had collided with an intelligence far beyond anything they could have imagined. Dr. Amina Rourke's hands trembled slightly as she prepared the last of her communication arrays. The encoded human thought patterns, their creativity, their hope, their will to survive, had slowed the quarantine's collapse, but the architect's patience was running thin. "We can't. Stay here," Admiral Hall said quietly, his voice edged with tension. "They've made their position clear." Amina shook her head. "Their warning was more than a message. It's an ultimatum. If we leave, maybe we survive, but if we push further..." Hall's eyes met hers. "We don't have the luxury to retreat and wait, not with the unknown lurking beyond." Novak finally spoke, breaking the heavy silence. "We have two choices. Withdraw now, or prepare to defend ourselves. Both carry risks none of us fully understand." The crew gathered in the command center, faces pale but determined. Helios reported, "Propulsion systems remain impaired by the quarantine's counter-gravity field. Estimated time to repair, uncertain." Liao's fingers danced across her console, sweat beading on her brow. "We're trapped in a cage designed to keep us out, or in." Amina's mind raced. The architects weren't mindless monsters. They were ancient guardians, enforcing a cosmic quarantine to contain something. The question was what, and whether humanity could convince them to trust. "We must try one last time," she said firmly. "A direct communication through the quantum core. Not just signals, but human intuition, our emotions, our empathy. Show them we're not invaders. Show them we're worthy." Hall hesitated but nodded. "Do it." Amina and Helios initiated the transmission. The ship thrummed as the quantum core modulated, sending waves of encoded human consciousness into the void. The message wasn't words or data. It was art, music, mathematics, the essence of what made humanity unique. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the quarantine pulse softened. But the relief was short-lived. A new message returned, subtle but unmistakable. A warning, clearer than before. Leave or be erased. The final warning. Novak clenched his fists. "They're giving us one last chance, but no one was ready to give up. Not yet." Admiral Hall gave the order. "Prepare defensive protocols. If they want to fight, we'll give them one." The ship's weapon systems, forbidden relics of ancient wars, hummed to life. The crew moved with grim determination, ready for a battle that might never come, or end them all. Then came the first strike. A pulse of energy blasted into the Resolute's shields, an otherworldly force that distorted matter and time. The ship shuddered violently, systems flashing red. Liao's voice cracked. Shields holding but weakening fast. The crew scrambled to repair damage, but it was clear. The architects wielded power beyond human comprehension. Amid the chaos, Amina focused on the communication array. "Wait," she whispered. "The energy pulses, they're patterned. It's a language." She worked furiously to decode it. The message was chilling. An ancient equation describing the containment of dangerous life forms and humanity's own genome highlighted as a potential threat. "They see us as a contagion," Amina said, voice low. "A virus that spreads beyond control." Novak's face hardened. "Then we prove them wrong." With that, the Resolute's crew resolved to fight not just for survival, but for humanity's right to exist among the stars. As the quarantine tightened around them, and the architects prepared their final judgment, one truth became clear. This was not just a battle for a star system, it was a battle for the future of humanity itself. The ISS Resolute groaned under the relentless assault of the architect's cosmic force. Flickering lights cast long shadows across the bridge, where Captain Novak and his crew fought to maintain control, shields at 20% and falling. Engineer Liao shouted, fingers flying over the console as she rerouted power. "Divert all remaining energy to shields," Novak ordered. "We need to hold them off while Amina finishes the communication." Amina worked frantically at the quantum core's interface. The pulses from the architects weren't random. They were a language, but one embedded deep in mathematics, emotion, and something that felt almost like a consciousness of its own. "Every attack is a test," she said, eyes blazing. "They're probing our responses, seeing if we understand them." Helios, the ship's AI, interfaced with her, projecting the alien code into comprehensible patterns. Slowly, Amina began to form a response. Not just words, but a composite of human experiences. Fear, hope, resilience, and curiosity. "Send it," Novak said, voice tense. Amina initiated the transmission. Waves of encoded emotion surged out through the quantum core, piercing the quarantine field like a beacon of humanity's essence. For a moment, silence. Then the assault paused. The void outside the viewport rippled as if the architects themselves were absorbing the message. "We have their attention," Amina whispered, but the reprieve was brief. The architects struck again, a barrage of energy, waves that threatened to tear the Resolute apart. The crew worked together with practiced precision, fighting fires, sealing breaches, patching damaged systems. In the midst of chaos, Lieutenant Ramirez's sacrifice echoed in their minds, a reminder that no one was safe. Novak's voice cut through the cacophony. "All hands, brace for emergency maneuver. We're making one final push through the quarantine's edge." Liao engaged the engines, pouring every ounce of remaining power into the drive. The ship shuddered violently as it fought the counter-gravity field, the universe itself seeming to resist their escape. "Hold on!" Novak shouted. Time distorted around them. Seconds stretched into eternity as the Resolute tore through the rift's barrier. The quarantine field pulsed and flared, an agonized roar echoing through space. Then, silence. The ship emerged beyond the rift, battered but intact. Stars reappeared, steady and true. Cheers erupted on the bridge, but Novak remained focused. "Made it," he said, "but we've seen what lies beyond our reach." Amina nodded. "The architects aren't just protectors, they're jailers, and we're the prisoners." Suddenly, Helios alerted them to a new transmission, faint but clear. The architect's voice, filtered through quantum pulses, carried a final message. Survive, evolve, return when worthy. It was a challenge, a test, and a warning. Humanity had survived the trial, but the true journey was only beginning. The ISS Resolute cruised through familiar space, its hull scarred, but its mission far from over. Stars twinkled outside the viewport, ordinary and indifferent to the cosmic ordeal the crew had just survived. Captain Elias Novak stood silently, on the bridge, eyes distant. The weight of what they had encountered lingered like a shadow. The quarantine wasn't just a scientific curiosity. It was a message written in the language of survival and consequence. Dr. Amina Rourke joined him, her gaze steady but somber. We were tested, and they let us live, but at a cost. Novak nodded. They saw us as a contagion, something dangerous, unpredictable. We have to change that perception. In the mess hall, the crew gathered quietly. Conversations were subdued, marked by a shared understanding that their lives and humanity's future had shifted irrevocably. Lieutenant Ramirez's sacrifice was mourned, a painful reminder of the price paid, but his memory fueled a renewed determination. Admiral Hall addressed the crew via secure transmission from Earth. We've lost much, but we have also gained invaluable knowledge. The architects are a force beyond our current grasp. Their warning is clear. Humanity must evolve. The scientific teams, led by Amina, began analyzing the data harvested from the rift, hoping to unlock the secrets of the quarantine and the beings who enforced it. What we faced was not just alien technology, Amina explained to her colleagues. It was a form of consciousness, ancient and vast, designed to protect the galaxy from threats like us, and maybe from worse. Yet, amid the shadow of the quarantine, a spark of hope glimmered. The architect's final message had been both a warning and a promise. Survive, evolve, return when worthy. Humanity had passed the first trial, but what lay ahead demanded more than technology. It required introspection, growth, and unity. Captain Novak convened a council with his senior officers and scientific advisors. They debated the implications, how to prepare for the next encounter, how to advance without provoking destruction. We can't afford hubris, Novak said. Our strength lies in learning, adapting, and above all, humility. The crew's ordeal became a catalyst for change across Earth and its colonies. Global governments united, pooling resources for a new era of exploration, one that valued caution and respect for the unknown. Meanwhile, Amina began work on a revolutionary project, a hybrid AI system designed to bridge human intuition with quantum computation, hoping to communicate more deeply with the architects in the future. Late one night, as Amina gazed at the stars, a thought struck her. The rift, the quarantine, it was more than a barrier. It was a test, a mirror held up to humanity's soul. Are we ready to face ourselves? She wondered aloud. The journey ahead was uncertain, but one thing was clear. Humanity's fight for the stars had only just begun. The ISS Resolute approached Earth orbit, its battered hull reflecting the pale blue glow of the planet below. The stars beyond shimmered with quiet indifference, the vast unknown still holding its secrets. But inside the ship, something had changed forever. Captain Elias Novak stood on the bridge, eyes scanning the readouts and the distant home they had fought so hard to return to. The crew was weary, but unbroken. They had faced the architects, the living enforcers of an ancient cosmic quarantine, and survived. The final transmission from the architects echoed in Novak's mind. Survive, evolve, return when worthy. That phrase had become a mantra, a call to arms not just for the crew but for all humanity. In the command center, Dr. Amina Rourke prepared a final briefing for Earth's leaders and scientific councils. Her voice was calm, yet resolute. Architects are not enemies, she said. They are guardians, protectors of the galaxy against dangers that we can barely comprehend. Our presence within the quarantine zone triggered their response because we represent potential threat. She paused, looking around at the faces of those who had shared her journey. But we are not merely threats. We are explorers, creators, survivors. They have challenged us to grow, to evolve beyond our limitations. Admiral Hall stepped forward, his expression grim but hopeful. This encounter was a reckoning. It exposed our vulnerabilities but also our potential. If humanity is to thrive among the stars, we must embrace unity, science, and wisdom. We must prove ourselves worthy, not through conquest, but through understanding. Outside the viewport, the Earth slowly rotated beneath them, a fragile oasis of life amidst the darkness. Novak reflected on the sacrifice of Lieutenant Ramirez and the others who had vanished in the rift. Their courage had paved the way for this new beginning. Return, when worthy, Novak repeated softly. It's not just a warning, it's a promise. As the Resolute docked, a surge of emotion swept through the crew. Relief, exhaustion, but above all, determination. The story of the drone fleet's disappearance and the lone survivor's grave, warning would become a legend, a turning point in human history. On Earth, the message was clear. The universe was far larger and more complex than imagined, filled with ancient intelligences that demanded respect. Humanity's journey had revealed its fragility but also its indomitable spirit. And now, with eyes wide open, the race to evolve had begun. The next mission would not be about dominance or fear. It would be about harmony. As the stars beckoned beyond the atmosphere, humanity stood ready, not just to explore but to understand, to return when worthy.